Hi everybody, hope you're having a good day. My name is Dr. Heather Moore, owner of Total Performance Physical Therapy. Let's talk about what is causing pain in the front of the shoulder. Common place to have pain. A lot of times it gets ignored because sometimes it's not that bad. You can move your arm in certain directions to get around it. It's not really irritating. Until it gets really bad, it doesn't really wake you up at night. So it is important to realize that even though it may not be awful when it starts, it's not something that you want to ignore. It is a sign of something worse coming, and if you don't address it when it's early on, it can be very costly and time-consuming down the road. So let's talk about, first of all, what it is. Generally, pain that's coming in the front of the shoulder has to do with the biceps, and usually we're going to classify that as biceps tendonitis. Again, not easy to diagnose over the internet. So if you do have an issue, you do have pain in the front of the shoulder, and you want a free consultation to figure out exactly what's going on, all you have to do is call our office at 215-997-9898, and we'd be happy to get you in. But that being said, bicep muscle runs right here, and usually when you're having pain in the front of the shoulder, it's usually right here. Now, if you're having more pain on the side of the shoulder, that's more referred pain coming from the rotator cuff, which is found in the back of the shoulder. We're not going to get into that today because that's not the purpose of this video. We're going to talk more about the front of the video, or the front of the shoulder, sorry. So when you do have pain coming down here into the bicep, generally that's tendonitis. Tendonitis is just an inflammation of the biceps tendon. What is concerning about this, aside from the pain, is that the biceps tendon is being overworked. And as with anything in your body, you want to figure out why that's happening. Unless you had a traumatic fall, which you don't get biceps tendonitis from just falling on an outstretched hand or falling on your shoulder, it is important to understand that that's coming from somewhere. That's coming from an issue that's happening over time. So usually that's a rotator cuff weakness type of issue, posture related things. So if you're someone that sits in this kind of posture all day, whether it be in front of your computer, on your phone, the more you find yourselves in this position, the weaker the shoulder muscles get. And the difficulty with the rotator cuff especially is there's no real exercise program that addresses shoulder rotator cuff exercises. So many of your blanket exercise programs are going to do your overhead presses, your delt lifts, your bicep curls. Really, to address rotator cuff the rotator cuff, you have to do specific exercises. You can find a lot of those on our YouTube channel if you want to get some specific exercises. But just doing these gross motions does not strengthen that rotator cuff. So be aware of that. So many people come in and they're like, oh, I have very strong shoulders. And when they test some motions, like going in front or going out to the side, you're right, your arms are strong. But when we specifically isolate the rotator cuff, we wind up seeing that it's not that strong. So when you have a weak rotator cuff, the biceps, which is in the front of the arm, has to work harder to make sure that your shoulder is stabilized, to make sure it's able to move without pain. So be aware that this type of tendonitis, any type of tendonitis, has a bigger picture at play, has a bigger thing going on. It's not just, let's just put ice on it, let's just put tape on it and get it healed. It is, let's figure out the problem and why that's occurring. And a lot of times it has to do with the rotator cuff. It has to do with posture. As so many injuries that we talk about, and so many, I always say injuries, and people say, well, it's not injured, I didn't do anything to it. Well, I call anything with pain an injury. As with so many things we discuss, you wind up finding that there's a bigger snowball behind it. It's not just simply pain in the front of the shoulder that all you got to do is put a bag of peas on and you'll be fine, or rest it for a couple days and you'll be good. Because the problem is that if you go right back to all the activities you were doing, it's going to flare up again. The other reason you're going to have pain is usually that biceps tendon will then also lead to what we call impingement. Yeah, we have lots of videos on our YouTube channel, Total Performance Physical Therapy, for shoulder impingement. But what that basically means is that this is pinching. So you have a muscle in here, and it's being pinched by these two bones. As you raise overhead, you're going to get a little bit pinching. That's going to cause this muscle in front to work a little harder because, let's face it, your body's going to do everything it can to not have it pinch when you go overhead. Eventually that pinching will become more debilitating where you won't be able to reach overhead at all because that muscle will be so inflamed. So again, it's this snowball that we talk about. While we may be able to say, okay, that's biceps tendonitis in the front of the shoulder and give it a very cute and clean definition, it is not the reason why you're having pain. It is not the cause of why you're having pain. You have to address all the issues behind it, which generally is posture and a rotator cuff weakness. And if you don't address those types of issues, you can actually wind up with a rotator cuff tear that started with just a simple biceps tendonitis that was ignored. So really important to understand that fixing this pain, not just fixing it with a medicine or fixing it just by putting a Band-Aid on it, really important to find the cause and to fix that cause. If you or someone you know is suffering with front of the shoulder pain and wants a free consultation with a doctor of physical therapy, all you have to do is call our office at 215-997-9898 and we'd be happy to get you in. Thanks and have a good night.